Good evening, everybody. We, as a state, up until late this afternoon, was in a great place as it relates to our battle of the COVID-19 virus. People in Wisconsin have done. If you can you mute, please, if possible. Anyway, I was saying we're in a good place in Wisconsin because the people of Wisconsin have done a great job. They've followed wise practices such as staying at home, making sure that they kept the proper distance when they weren't home, doing all the right things. And 2 days ago, I've been thinking back since this decision. 2 days ago, we were able to, because of our good work by the people of the state, open up small businesses in the state of Wisconsin, over 14,000. And in those 14,000 small businesses that have been struggling mightily, 90,000 people were employed there. So we felt good about that. We had high-quality gating criteria. As you know, it came from the CDC and, frankly, the White House. We've almost met them, 5 out of 6, and that was a good deal. And we had a Marquette poll that says 69% of the people of Wisconsin supported their efforts, not my efforts, their efforts to make progress in this arena. So today, Republican legislators convinced 4 members of the Supreme Court to throw the state into chaos. I can remember a week or so ago, I got a letter from Speaker Voss and other Republicans in the legislature saying, let's meet and talk about a safe and gradual reopening of the state economy. Speaker Voss and the Republican legislators who brought this case have decided not to do that. They have thrown the state into chaos. They have provided no plan. There's no question among anybody that people are going to get sick. We presently lead the Midwest in having the fewest cases per capita. And the Republicans own that chaos. The Tavern League tonight sent an email to their folks saying it's open season, open up. And all across the state that has happened. We all know, anybody that follows this issue, that if you bring a lot of people in a small place, somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to get sick, and that's exactly what's going to be happening. So, this point is if somebody is unmuted, please mute.
Yeah, thank you for muting.
So, the Republicans own this. They've set us back in our health and our economy, and I want to cycle back to that right now. I've had conversations with business leaders across the state throughout this time, and the very, very first one I've had was with leaders of some of our largest corporations. And they made it very clear that in order to have a healthy economy, we must have people that feel confident and safe in their own health. They cannot, without that, they cannot be good consumers, they cannot be good customers, and frankly, they cannot be good workers. And so the idea that somehow we are in this position to have this chaos where we have 72 counties now making decisions, and we've already seen it, this is going to be very difficult for people to keep hope. I'm very disappointed in the decision. Apparently, with the 4 that made this decision, facts don't matter, the law doesn't matter, precedence doesn't matter. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions people may have.
Governor, this is J.R. Ross at WisPolitics.com. Will you issue a separate order or begin the emergency rule process to put something in place after this decision?
Well, of course, we're going to do the emergency or the a scope statement, yes, we will do a scope statement. But if anybody believes that that's going to be done in 5 days or 2 days, they be wrong. It takes a long time to make, and the Republicans changed this process several times over the last years to make it more complex and more difficult. They own that too. It's not going to be done, but we will be doing a scope statement tomorrow. Clearly, the law says you cannot do any rulemaking until that scope statement is approved, and so this isn't going to be an overnight thing. And in the meantime, we're going to have 72 counties doing their own thing. And we were in a good place. We are no longer in a good place.
Governor, this is can you just make a comment about Dane County issuing an order and whether any of these pending lawsuits deal with Chapter 252.03, which I believe deals with local health departments? Is that in jeopardy too?
This is Ryan Nelson, Governor Evers' Chief Legal Counsel. The lawsuits that have been filed all deal with the Department of Health Services and their authority. Same thing with the Supreme Court decision. So they do not touch or address local public health authority under 252.03. And the reason, one of the purported reasons that the court relied on was administrative rulemaking that only applies to state agencies, not local public health officials. And that's why I think you're going to be seeing a flurry of local health officials charting their own path, and why you're going to see a 72-county approach for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and while that happens, it is chaos. I mean, people in this state they get it. This is not going to sit well when they have no idea what the rules are, what the rules of the road are, and this is a step in the wrong direction. I can't believe there's a state in the nation that has this type of chaos.
Governor, this is Gwen with the Wheeler Report. Can you tell me specifically what this does to the closure of public schools in the state? Nothing in the order specifically speaks to that, but the schools are closed under the emergency order.
It doesn't impact that. They did not address that, so it doesn't impact that.
And thanks, Gwen. This is Ryan Nelson again. If you take a look at page 31 of the decision, they tucked it in a footnote saying this decision does not apply to Section 4A of the Emergency Order 28. That's the provision on schools. So presumably that schools that remain closed, but they didn't provide any explanation, any rationale on why they picked that one section, and they didn't provide any guidance going forward in terms of what authority DTES does have with rulemaking or any other orders going forward.
Governor, this is Raymond Newport with Wisconsin Radio Network. What's your thoughts about the offer from Republicans to have this be a 6-day stay in order to put something together, and the state Supreme Court not coming together on that?
Well, there's no 6 days, right? There's no 6 days. The Republicans have never had a plan, and so we are at this point in time state with no expectations as it relates to this virus.
Governor, this is Patrick Marley from the Journal Sentinel. The rulemaking process, as you described, is complex and time-consuming. Legislation can happen a lot faster. Do you want to try to work out a deal with legislative leaders and put something in law that addresses this issue now?
Well, bells. We've had how many months, and there has been no plan from the Republicans. So if they have some secret way of doing this, we'll hear about it tomorrow. We have a scope statement that will be prepared, and they will have that tomorrow, because if this was all about administrative rulemaking.
Governor, Todd Richmond from the AP. This might be a question for Ryan, but can the legislature trump emergency rules? I assume the scope statement will be for a new emergency rule.
Yeah, Todd, so in terms of how the emergency rulemaking process goes, I think it's better called a slightly expedited process. And so the process would be DHS will be issuing a scope statement tomorrow. Then we have to wait until that's published in the Administrative Code Register on Monday. Then state law requires us to wait another 10 days before we can even start putting pen to paper in order to write that rule. And so you're looking at already, 14 odd days before we can even start writing a rule. Once that's actually written and submitted and everything, a very small committee of legislators, they keep talking about wanting to have a seat at the table. Just to be clear, it only takes a few members of the Joint Committee of Review of Administrative Rules to be able to unilaterally suspend that rule. And because of the lame duck law, they gave themselves the power to suspend that rule indefinitely. So we could go through this whole process, do a scope statement, get it promulgated, have overwhelming support from the legislature and the public, and yet a few members can unilaterally sink that rule, and there's no recourse to it.
To say that complex is an understatement, especially when we're in a position of strength, where our state has made extraordinary progress, and the people of Wisconsin have done their job. They've done a great job. They've done almost everything we've asked them to do, and all the things are looking good. And now we are in a position of having that turned around in one fell swoop, because we have 4 members of the court that actively created new law.
Governor Charles Benson here. I know you have been waiting for the Republicans to provide some sort of guideline or a plan. You haven't had much luck in the past with a special session. Do you see that as a potential option here?
Well, anything's possible, Charles, but we have waited a long time, and if suddenly they have a plan that is going to work any better than having 69% of the people supporting it, are going to meet all those gating criteria, high-quality gating criteria, and allow us to, as Speaker Voss said, safely and gradually reopen the state economy, which is exactly what we did last week, or this week, earlier this week. That's great. Let's hear it.
Governor, this is Charlie Pittman at WORT. Is it still within your authority to issue a moratorium on mass gatherings?
This is Ryan Nelson. So the authority to ban mass gatherings, that's with the DHS Secretary, and we're reviewing the order. I think going back to what I just said earlier, part of the problem with this decision is it is unclear. They provide little to no guidance on what authority DHS has, both in terms of issuing an order or even going through rulemaking. They completely dodged that issue. And so the other challenge with this is instead of standing up and providing clarity on the law, the court simply knocked safer at home down. They provided no stay, they provided no transition period, and they provided no roadmap on what the law is. The court is there in order to interpret and apply the law. They didn't do that. And so that's part of the chaos we're seeing is we have a decision where you have multiple decisions from different justices. They came to different conclusions for different reasons, and the majority opinion doesn't lay out what the next steps possibly can be. And basically, it's just an open door for future litigation.
We have time for one more question.
Governor, this is Andrew Marica from WKOW. Is there any place in the future of this process for the Supreme Court of the United States?
No. The Supreme Court of Wisconsin owns this, along with the 4 members that did this, along with the Republicans who brought this suit.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for being on the call tonight. Like I said, you'll hear more from the governor tomorrow and in the coming days. Have a good night. Thanks.
This program is a production of WisconsinEye, an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit media network with a mission to inform, educate, and engage the citizens of Wisconsin. WisconsinEye is the nation's first and only independently funded state civics broadcast network, providing gavel-to-gavel access to government proceedings and events at the state capitol.